and we're here to look at an application for a variation of a premises license for Portobello Store, 8 Pembridge Road. And joining me on the committee, they can introduce themselves and make any declarations of interest.
Good morning. I'm Councillor Sarah Addenbrook. I represent Abingdon Ward, and I have no declarations of interest.
I'm Judith Blakeman. I'm Councillor for Nottingdale Ward. I have a friend who lives in Ivy Lodge, which, contrary to one of the objectors, is not above these premises.
Thank you. And just to confirm that I have no declarations of interest either. I believe everyone's familiar with the procedure. It's set out on the yellow paper in front of you. And if you could introduce yourself when you speak, and I think we will just crack on, please. We will start with Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. Today's application has been submitted by Portobello Store Limited for the variation of a premises licence at Portobello Store, 8 Pembridge Road, W11 3HL. The applicant initially sought off sales of alcohol 24 hours a day to provide a 24-hour delivery service. The opening hours sought were from 7 a.m. until 4 a.m. daily. The applicant's request for a 24-hour licence has effectively been withdrawn. This includes those conditions initially proposed as part of the original operating schedule. The amended application before you today seeks to extend off sales of alcohol by 1 hour Monday to Saturday with no changes on Sunday. The applicant is also seeking to amend condition 18 by bringing this condition in line with the hours sought as part of this application. Both the amended hours and proposed amendment to condition 18 can be found on page 2 of today's report. I can confirm that this application has attracted a representation from PC Davis of the Metropolitan Police. A summary of PC Davis's objection can be found on pages 2 to 5, with a full copy attached to Appendix C, pages 31 to 73. The licensing authority originally received 9 representations opposing the application. This includes 2 from local residents' associations, 5 of which were subsequently withdrawn following the amendment outlined just a moment ago. Copies of the remaining 4 representations are attached as Appendix D, pages 74 to 77. Council records indicate that the premises received 1 complaint over the preceding 24-month period. A summary of this complaint has been attached at Appendix E, page 78. Council records also indicate that no temporary event notices had been submitted within the preceding 24 months. That concludes a summary of this application. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So now we're going to go to the applicants, please. You have up to 10 minutes. And if you could please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. My name is Rob Edge of Licensed Leader Limited, the agent acting on behalf of the applicant. I'll let the applicant and his son introduce.
I'm Mutaz Chalgin. I'm the son of the DPS. And my name is Osma Chalgin. I am the DPS and the premises holder.
Thank you, Chair. Acting for the premises licence holder, I've taken into consideration the Section 182 guidance, the Statement of Licensing Policy, and the representation received against this application. We've attempted mediation with police licensing in regards to public nuisance and offered voluntary conditions to be added to the operating schedule should members be minded to grant the application. The voluntary conditions offered were the removal of the DPS and that the premises close for a period of 2 weeks in order to bring in a new DPS and carry out comprehensive staff training for all staff and for the premises licence holder. Attached to the documents pack that were submitted were the following annexes in support of the application for the premises licence, and although some of these would have already been in place, they've been revamped. A noise monitoring plan, Challenge 25 policy, refusals log, DPS authorisations, premises licence operations manual, customer signage, and an incident log. Of the 8 responsible authorities who could have objected to this application in relation to the 4 licensing objectives, only one has, that being the Metropolitan Police, on the grounds of public nuisance and not on the grounds of crime and disorder. In summary, it is my considered opinion that the applicant should have discussed with responsible authorities prior to submitting the application. It wasn't, and that is why we're here today and why there were so many amendments to the application. This would have prevented lots of amendments to the application and may well have avoided a costly public hearing. There have been no complaints, there has only been one complaint registered against the premises since 2018. The licensing authority carried out a licensing enforcement inspection on the 19th of February. And within their documentation, it said that everything was found to be in order and all conditions were being complied with. I did give to the clerk a copy of the inspection report because it didn't come through to me until late. I think, have you been given a copy, Chair? Oh, sorry. With your permission. Certainly, Chair.
Have you had a chance to see that, PC and Davis? Everyone's read it now?
Yes, I have, thank you.
Thank you. Just want to check because we have to make sure all parties have seen all the same information. Legal, you okay? Perfect, thank you. Do you want to continue? Thanks.
With the additional conditions, policies and procedures in place, we trust you will see this is now a stronger operating schedule, and with the removal of the delivery service and the extension of hours, we think it's something that's certainly much more fitting for the area. The applicant admits taking his eye off the ball during COVID and intends to show that moving forward it will be a model premises run in accordance with the Licensing Act and will fully cooperate with all responsible authorities moving forward. During the last 2 years, there have not been additional staff running the premises. It's predominantly been run by the premises licence holder, his son, and another member of the family. On page 63 of the report, PC Davis states that if the subcommittee is minded to grant the application in full or part, the police would request considering to limiting all licensing activities within the remit of the Council Licensing Midnight Policy Framework, and further to add at a minimum and below level conditions in support of the licensing objectives. I can assume that's no longer applicable because there is now only an extension of hours until midnight, excluding the Sunday. In relation to the refusals log, the refusals log was not being used as they were operating an EPOS system, which is the electronic barcode system on the till. Since they've been made aware that some of the responsible authorities weren't happy with that, they now operate both systems, both the EPOS for the barcode and the actual refusals log in a written format. And both of those will thoroughly uphold the licensing condition of Challenge 25. PC Davis did say that he had concerns in relation to the management of the premises in which suspected breaches were identified on the 23rd of January. It's my opinion that they were not really breaches. The paperwork was scruffy and slightly slapdash. This has now been completely rectified to the satisfaction of the licensing enforcement officers who visited 1 month later on the 19th of February. Moving forward, there will be a strong management team within the premises who will consult with responsible authorities and their licensing agent for advice on being fully compliant. This concludes my submissions unless there are any questions from members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Will the committee like to ask a question? Councillor Blakeman.
Yes. First of all, about your noise monitoring plan, you state that it's an industrial area. It's not. It's mixed retail and residential.
That's an error.
Your noise monitoring plan's obviously been copied from somewhere else.
It
doesn't relate to this.
It is a standard template, and I apologise if I made an error there, Councillor.
So I note your assurance that the refusals log and the incident log will be completed. And with regard to the DPS, Mr. Osman Chalgin, it says in the review papers that you didn't understand some of the conditions. Do you understand them now? Do you recognise that breaches of the conditions is actually a criminal offence and can be reviewed?
We did, in fact, spend an hour this morning prior to coming to the committee and just going through those again and figuring out a methodology of Mr. Chagin being compliant with those and understanding the terminology of the conditions.
Yeah, and I note from the training logs that none of the people who've been trained have been put their surnames down. Why not?
Again, that's something that was discussed this morning,
Well, we take the decisions here, so if it's discussed this morning, we need to know what the answers are.
Yeah, and I fully understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. One of the problems is for premises licence holders that licensing enforcement went out, checked all the paperwork and said, yes, everything is fine.
Yes, but they don't make the decision, we make the decision.
Sorry?
They don't make the decision, we make
No,
the decision.
I fully appreciate that. But I'm saying that it did give a slightly mixed message to the licence holder. He is aware, I've said, that he should copy exactly what he has on his employee records and write down the full name of each individual.
So will they be added to the paperwork?
The paperwork was amended this morning to include full names of all people.
Yeah, I don't know what they are.
I don't know what are, sorry.
Okay, so understand that your paperwork needs to be properly kept and surnames need to be added on the training logs. Okay, thank you. Councillor Addenbrooke.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned you were operating an EPOS system, which... Could you explain what that actually means? Because clearly it's not an incident log, which is...
Certainly. It's Generally, a condition on a premises licence will say that a till prompt should be in place and may be electronic or visual. The EPOS system is where, for instance, the barcode on a bottle, when they scan it, will automatically flash up on the till and say, challenge 25 if it's an alcoholic drink.
But is there a log kept of all of
It
these?
then logs on the till roll that a challenge 25 was kept.
But there's no separate log, so
No,
if
but
PC Davis had arrived and asked for it, you can't present that.
no, there is. That's included within the pack and was inspected on the licensing check. It was only after PC Davis had pointed out to them that the EPOS system on its own was insufficient. And they then started operating the refusals log. Because you'll see that the refusals log within the evidence pack from PC Davis was in place prior to the inspection and was being used. It was only in 2019 when the till was changed they thought that they didn't need to use it.
Any more questions? Okay, so my questions, and maybe I'll also ask PC and Davis when he does his representation, is concerning the police inspection. So I understand you've had a positive licensing enforcement inspection, so that is good, and that happened in February. So I appreciate you drawing our attention to that. Thank you. And you have passed that, so that is good news. But the police inspection happened a month before, and there were 3 breaches. We've gone through the training records, understand about that. So the other breach was the CCTV. Can you please talk about that, please?
Certainly, the premises licence holder is now using an IT technician who's trained his son so that he can operate, and the licence holder, so that there is someone permanently present. The CCTV was working. I believe that the error was in the fact that when asked to operate the system and download, they weren't fully compliant there.
And so have the records of the CCTV been sent to the police? Did the police then need to see them?
No, the police didn't need to see them. It was a condition within the operating schedule that someone on the premises must be able to operate and download if requested by a responsible authority.
Okay, thank you. And then the third breach was only one member of staff present from 1 p.m. in lunchtime on a Sunday to 1:30 p.m. And one of your conditions says you need 2. So can you please talk about that, please? Yes, thank you.
On that day, the staff member that was working was on his lunch, and I was coming in a bit later. Yeah, so that's what happened on that day.
So during that time, when you only have 1 member of staff, you don't sell alcohol then?
It was on a Sunday, so probably not.
Okay, we'll talk about that more when we get to the police representation. Okay, thank you. So those are my 3 questions concerning the police inspection. And I think Councillor Addenbrooke has one more question. Thank you.
You mentioned about putting in a strong management team. Can you talk to us about who's going to be part of that team and how many people are in that team?
Essentially, the 3 people present. I've spent an hour with them, as I said, this morning, going through the initial paperwork. And we will then do another session, which is reinforcing with any other individual members of staff about compliance with Challenge 25, the policy of Challenge 25, how to manage the noise management plan, and the compliance of really just having a folder, an IREX folder with sheets in, so that the DPS authorisation, the refusals log, incident logs, are all kept in one place and that everybody knows what they are, how to use them and when to use them, and to demonstrate due diligence both to yourselves and to responsible authorities.
If you give me a chance to explain some point. Sorry, if you give me just a chance to explain. I'm working in Notting Hill Gate since 1997, half of my age. I'm serving my community and I love my community. And I'm very, very careful to give the best service for my community and to protect my community. And I am 52 years old now and I have a heart condition, but I'm working actually for my children to pass their education. Maybe I'm not fully understand that time the applicant, but I wait until my son now, he's degree business, he finished, and he's gonna help me out to manage everything correctly. I have a daughter, she have a diabetes, she's 17 years old, she have a diabetes type 1. Sometimes I don't sleep for 24 hours to sleep, to just go through night with her, and next day I come to work because we need to be 2 people there. Sometime last 2 years it's a COVID. We had big problem, limited time. We're not making money. We don't have enough support from the government, and I am there because we require 2 people, and I hire one, and I pay the wages from my pocket. And now I took a loan, 50,000 from the government, and I am in debt. We're trying our best. We're trying to help the elderly people. We do in the newspaper in the morning, the pay point, the lottery, everything in order. I have less than 20% alcohol, which is 1 fridge and behind the counter to help us to pay our debt and to just stay alive and to help my children to pass their education. I promise you, and this 1 hour, they will make a huge difference for us. From 11 to 12 o'clock, people going out, they are going home. They come 5, 6 people to the shop, they want to buy a bottle of wine. And we say, no, sorry, we're not allowed. And they start arguing. They said, please, come on, we give you cash. Do it. No, the law doesn't allow us. This hour, they will help us because everybody from 11 to 12, they will give a little bit benefit to push us a little bit to pay our debt and to continue in the business and to pay our business rate and we try in our best and we try more, and everything wrong we done before, we have to correct it, and we will correct it. And I hope you will give us the chance for this 6 people family to survive and to cooperate again and to have this 1 hour. They will help us a lot. Thank you very much. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. It's always nice to hear the background, and thank you for being there since 1997. Any more questions?
Sorry, just going back to the strong management team, you've talked about the incident log, the CCTV. What about employment and employment records? Who's responsible for that?
The premises license holder, and that's something because obviously I wasn't involved in it, but I'd seen the paperwork from 2018 and talked to Mr. Shagin about that and about how to keep the correct documentary evidence to conform with the UK Home Office guidelines. And at the moment, and during the last 2 years, he hasn't actually had anyone apart from 1 individual who's a UK citizen, so he hasn't had the need to do it. But I've given him the paperwork with an abridged version of bullet points of what needs to be complied with.
Yes, you haven't said why the extra hour is required.
Because they will help us to pay our debt, to pay the council rate, to pay I have outstanding for the landlord big amount of money. I don't want to mention it because of COVID. We won't have to pay this one. We need a little bit of, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I've actually just got a question. If Mr. Phelan, if I could possibly ask you a question, licensing question, regarding the condition for having 2 people on. I mean, I understand why that was put on for serving alcohol. I'm just aware that for a small business, it's quite an onerous condition. Can it be if, for example, someone is going out, then can the alcohol just not be sold? How does that work?
Thank you. I'll just have to have a look at the direct condition, one moment. So the actual condition 18, isn't tied into essentially alcohol sales, from my understanding. It's just tied into when it's open for licensable activities. So if the intention there is to obviously be open for licensed activities, there's no, my interpretation would be there's no wiggle room there, essentially. It would have to be 2 members of staff.
But if the licensable activities were not actually happening at that time?
Then I don't see a problem with the condition, Chair.
Okay, we've got
yeah.
Lindsay just here.
Yes, Paul's correct. I mean, if there's no licensable activities happening while they pop out for an hour, that's fine. This condition bites on the licensable activities. Can I just ask one quick question? You've amended the application. I just wanted clarification, that the opening hours Monday to Saturday are also going to be 7 till 24 now. You haven't spelt that out in the subsequent amendments. I know you've said no 24-hour deliveries and et cetera, but can you just confirm that you're seeking your opening hours to be revised on Mondays to Saturdays from 7 till 24? Is that correct? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, for clarifying that. That was very helpful. So the committee has finished questions. We're now turning to see if PC and Davis has any questions to the applicant. Thank you.
No questions, Chair. Thank you.
No questions? Thank you. So now, please, can you do your submission, please? Thank you. And can you introduce yourself? Thanks.
Yes, PC and Davis, licensing, Kensington, Chelsea. Thank you very much, Chair, for the questions you've been asked of the applicant. Obviously mindful of the variation to their position in relation to the amendments. Just for clarity, I think the position is a question to be asked, and this is for the committee to make a decision on reward for any sort of variation that's going to support the business. Now, we had the review hearing back in 2018, which was for immigration offences, and if I could basically refer to pages 41 in the bundle. If you note in paragraph 17, which is right at the bottom, that goes onto page 42. Again, when the inspection was done and the same operator licensee, Mr. Osmat Chalgin, was the owner of the premises, conditions were identified as being breached. Condition 4, 6, 11, 15, 16, and again, condition 19 at the time, with Mr. Chalgin being the only member of staff at the premises, and also condition 22. And the primary driver is in relation to employing illegal staff that didn't have the necessary permissions to be employed in this country. Now, obviously, I did the inspection post the application, which is a standard practice that I do. And obviously mindful of the breaches, but again, even up until this time, I've still not received any sort of compliance, and I say bona fide compliance, i.e. Official Home Office checks in relation to condition 24 to show that they've showed due diligence and compliance. This will be done, can be done online, whereby the response has a unique reference number in relation to my request to the previous licensing consultant, Mr. Osin Daly, and I refer to page 64 in the bundle of my request. I'm mindful of the applicant's response in relation to there was no need, but I think the aspect of our concern is that based on the committee's decision and these additional conditions submitted during the hearing, primarily in relation to employees checks and illegal workers working at the premises, they still not comply with this condition. To do the checks and to have a result from the Home Office is essential. And the police's position in relation to this is, should the committee actually be granting any extension of hours up until they are found out for breaching their licence? That is my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. I've just got a couple of questions. So, you're not objecting on the terms of public nuisance, are you?
Because the application's changed, the midnight policy, and we wholly support the midnight policy, so the actual operating hours from Monday to Saturday until midnight, and I think they're not going to operate on a Sunday, we're fine with that. But the question is, though, there's a confidence of the management. They've recently changed a licensing consultant, which is their discretion. But again, the issues over the immigration checks, excuse me. Yes, the issue around the immigration checks, and as I said, I've not received any sort of formal verification, and that's been done via the Home Office.
Thank you. So if the committee were minded to grant this extra hour till midnight, you would want to see that document from the Home Office before this was allowed, if the committee were minded?
Yes, I would do, and whereby there technically should be, one would argue, in consideration of the review hearing, an audited trail of staff. Obviously, their response is the fact that it wasn't needed to be done. We don't know that, and it's been quite a few years, obviously with COVID, etc., that we've not visited the premises. And there's no issues with the premises, but taking the position of what the decision for the committee at the time, we feel that there is a lack of confidence in relation to the management of the premises.
Thank you. So a lack of confidence, but you just said there was no issue with the premises. So the inspection and review you talked about happened in 2017, so that was 5 years ago. So, and I understand obviously you've had COVID since then. Yeah, and I say there's no issues with premises. There's no crime and disorder associated with the premises outside, i.e. Assaults, thefts, etc., etc. There's no issues with that. The concern is managing the licence, and I think the key line in the sand from a police perspective is the management of immigration and their staff. That's very clear. Thank you so much. No further questions from me. Fellow committee members? Applicant, do you have any questions to PC and Davis?
I'll phrase it as a question, yeah. I think there might be some confusion on that condition. I think the premises licence holder quite genuinely thought that, you know, that was something that happened in 2018, and that there's a grey area there between, so there's no issues with crime and disorder, there's an issue over the confidence in the management, but the objection is under public nuisance. Even I was confused by that. And that if what's actually being asked for is a nil return, i.e. for the premises licence holder to send in a response saying, I am not currently employing anyone who does not have permanent UK status, that is easily achieved. I don't think I understood it as you want us to go back 5 years and list anyone that was employed over the previous 5 years.
So can you ask that as a question, please, to PC and Davis?
Whether you can clarify my understanding of those points.
In the excuse me, in the email that I submitted to Mr. Daly in relation to this, I requested an audit of staff going back as practicable in relation to the checks that have been done. We don't know as to whether who's been employed at those premises, considering, and the only way that can be verified is via the online checks via the Home Office, and that's a unique reference number, that's a unique document, and that's not been provided. So, considering all the other breaches, we don't have the confidence in the management to say they're doing what they're doing.
And those are public nuisance breaches.
Well, I'll have to apologise on behalf in front of the committee. The initial representation was surrounding the aspect of nuisance with the extension of hours. Excuse me. Yeah, the nuisance aspect of it, but it's key that obviously the crime aspect of the objective is engaged in relation to the breaches of conditions. So that is an amendment that I needed to kind of push forward.
So thank you for clarifying that, and I think the committee has noted that, so thank you for that. And I just want to also add that, as we're all aware, the application has changed significantly, so I can understand, and we've seen all the emails that have gone backwards and forwards, so appreciate all your time doing all that. Thank you. I think our legal officer has a question.
This is to PC and Davis. Can I just check that the only condition that, since the variation amendment, is the residents' meeting? You're not obviously seeking the external management plan and all the delivery plan type conditions?
No,
so it's
not
just
at all. Yeah.
It's just the one condition now. Okay,
That's
thank
correct.
you.
Yes.
On the residents' meetings, there should be at least 5 months between each one. They shouldn't be back to back. Sorry, the residents' meetings should have at least 5 months between them and not to be back to back.
It's my understanding that those are not now applicable because they're not doing delivery service and not operating beyond midnight.
The extra hour could be an issue for residents, so I mean, obviously we'll come to this in the conditions session.
Okay.
I mean, this could be something that could be added to the licence regardless of whether the delivery condition's there or not.
Yes, certainly.
I mean, to be honest, with convenience stores, often you might not get much take up from residents. It depends. I mean, if you are, it's quite a good way to kind of reach out to your community as well. I mean, it can be really positive. It can be a nice way to, you know, have a reason to have a chat. I mean, we always put it in on obviously restaurants and bars and nightclubs. It's absolutely essential, but it can be a positive one. So I think we have finished with all the questions now. So our legal officer is going to go through the conditions and just clarify any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Has everybody got a copy of the draft conditions that were circulated yesterday? Sorry, can you hear me, everyone?
So this document with the yellow on the top, yeah.
PC Davis, have you got a copy? What do you need? You got a copy, jolly good. Okay, so looking at 6 in the margin, I'm directing this to the applicant. Are you happy for me to just tweak the wording on existing condition 6? So it's in line with our current wording?
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem at all.
18, obviously, you've requested that the hours are changed to 24 if the committee are minded to grant the application. So obviously that's for the committee to decide. Existing condition 20, are you happy for that to be tweaked so it's in line with our current model wording? Thank
Yes.
you. And 30, this is the residents' meeting which we touched on just now. Are you happy with 2 times a year, or does anybody have a view on 2 times and who to notify? And I think Councillor Blakeman's talked about 5 months in between, or 1 time a year.
Personally, I think once a year would...
Once a year. Is that okay on your end?
Yeah. In fact, I'd have thought twice a year would have been But I mean, I'm not precious over it.
Okay. Okay. I didn't add any further suggested conditions because there's quite a multitude of conditions on the existing licence. Has anything cropped up in the hearing that anybody would consider to be a further condition that they think? Because I can't think of any more, to be perfectly honest with you. So the hours you're seeking for the off sales are 7 till 24, Monday to Saturday, no change on Sunday. Opening hours Monday to Saturday, 7 till 24, and on Sunday, 7 till 23 still. And that's basically the application, and amend condition 18 if minded to grant. Anything else? I'll look at that afterwards.
Sorry, just to clarify, if alcohol is not in sale, does there still have to be 2 members of staff at work, or no? Thank you.
It's just for licensable activities that condition bites.
Just for clarification, when I did the inspection and there was just the one person on premises, alcohol was displayed for sale. As I didn't witness any sale, patrons did come into the premises and items were sold. However, it was displayed for sale. So if you are minded to grant it, whilst that person is there's not got 2 people in the premises, are we looking at a condition to consider them having some sort of covering or the items removed from display for that half an hour, whatever it may be? Just for information, Chair.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Just to reply, we do have coverings, so if there's one person in the future, we'll just cover the alcohol.
And your opening hours, regardless of serving alcohol, your opening hours, you're not a 24-hour shop?
Maybe. No. We're not 24 hours, but maybe 1 hour for cleaning or 2 hours, just not to alcohol, all locked alcohol. After 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock, wherever all the alcohol is shut and locked, they're going to be.
Can I just ask one more question? In light of what PC Davis has just said, without checking the existing licence, I don't think there's a condition about coverings, but are you okay if we have some kind of tailored condition basically saying if someone isn't available during licensable hours to cover? Are you happy with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? Great. Thank you very much for going through all those. The committee will now withdraw to discuss our decision in a private closed session. I don't think we will return today to give our decision, but we will give the decision within 5 working days, and then a full decision will follow. So thank you all very much for attending. This hearing is now closed. Thank you.